Happy New Year, or Merry Christmas. At least I'm pretty sure this is actually going to be Happy New Year, but also Merry Christmas because this was supposed to go up the week of Christmas, and time got away from me. But since it is the what was supposed to be the last video of this year is now turning into the second video of this year. I think I'll put the channel review up before this one. I don't know if it's just gonna go up as like an extra video the week or just separate them out. I really don't know. But here we are, and last year I did a entire story of Santa Claus in the Family Guy universe. So now with The Simpsons and King of the Hill reboot, didn't really add anything to this story. American Dad, in their tradition, gave us a whole new chapter in their story between the Smiths versus Santa, and then there was a cameo of Robot Santa in Futurama. And his story is definitely getting more and more flushed out. Since last time we saw Santa, he was trapped, and now Santa is a rock star. Hey guys, welcome to 2026, and this year for the channel, my goal is to just grow the channel. Currently, we're at 1,300 subscribers. I'd love to hit 1,500, but I'd really like to hit 2,000 by Christmas. It's 12 months away. Don't really get why we couldn't do that. But if you guys could help me out, that would be greatly appreciated. And if not, I hope you guys enjoy the video. First off, let's recap where we last left off with Santa before he is replaced by Robot Santa in the future. And that would be in the American Dad episode, Into the Jingleverse. In the episode, Stan contacts Santa to get Steve a virtual reality headset to gain his title as King of Presents. Now, it is a common trope with Stan that he has a very unhealthy need to be the best at almost everything. But in this case, his need to get good gifts from his family stems from his father, Jack, not getting good presents when he was a child. So, like most things, this stems from a good place, but it's mostly Stan's ego, let's just be real. So Santa agrees to help Stan out by letting the Smiths beta test his new virtual reality goggles called Jolly Goggles. Though his family does like it at first, they quickly find out this is actually a trap, and that once you put on the goggles, they become fused to your head. The Smiths learn this when Santa shows up in the Jingleverse and tells them everything. The family is initially mad at Stan, but this is where he learns his lesson, and they start laughing at their jokes. This, however, causes Stan to start farting from the eggnog he shared with Santa. Realizing that Santa is in the same room as them because he can also smell the eggnog, the two of them start fighting, and Santa's pretty much just trying to blindly beat up Santa Claus. An important thing to note here, though, is that Santa's elves could have stepped in here, but they actually chose not to. So Santa offers Stan a deal to live with him, but Stan declines and then reaches out to the elves to let his family out and get revenge on Santa. The elves apparently like Stan's idea and proceed to let the Smiths go and trap Santa inside of the Jingleverse. So in my Santa timeline video, this was the last we knew of Santa, and I speculated that the elves would actually go on to either fund or at a minimum back the Friendly Robot Company in 2801, eventually creating Robot Santa, sort of implying that they lost the real one, but at a minimum we didn't know what happened to him. Also, I might have my timelines a little bit backwards here, like Robot Santa might have been before the Friendly Robot Company. Either way, the mix-up has happened here, right? But because of this, it was actually sort of a surprise when we saw him in Family Guy Christmas Special Gift of the White Guy. When Stewie kills Meg, he says, "I hope Santa doesn't hear about this." We then jump to the North Pole, and an elf getting a fax from a fax machine, running the fax machine to Santa, saying, "Sir, you have to see this." Santa, who is currently getting a massage, says busy, 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 and essentially runs the elf out of the room. He then says to the elf who's giving him a massage, "The massage is great, man. I'm so stiff from carrying this full sack around. You know what I mean?" And the elf just kind of responds nonchalantly, "Yeah, toys are getting heavy." Santa then asks for the elf's name, and says, "Well, now I know who not to ask for next time." Basically, if you don't catch what's going on here, Santa was trying to ask for a happy ending. If you don't know what a happy ending is, I'm not going to explain that. But this does show us that he apparently managed to convince the elves to let him out of the Jingleverse, which might actually make sense since it's kind of implied that you need Santa and Santa's magic to actually have Christmas in the way that we know it now, which also might explain why Christmas in the future is just a hellscape because of Robot Santa. But we do actually get more information about this in American Dad Season 19's Nasty Christmas. Basically, when Stan drags his family to the CIA's Christmas party at Scampers, becoming his usual controlling self in the process, given the entire family roles and jobs to do at the party, he finds out that the party is actually just for the office riffraff and that he actually wasn't invited to Bullock's way cooler party and that the other agents are sneaking off to it. Dan takes this about as well as expected, goes home, blows off decorating family Christmas tree, and sneaks off to Bullock's party with Klaus. They then try and basically fail to sneak in, and they are stopped eventually by Bullock, telling them to try again next year. Stan then hears a woman on the phone that is mad that her husband stood her up and offers to be her date to get into the party. And she agrees, calling her husband an asshole, but overall, they actually get into the party. The party is great, but this ends up backfiring since the girl who let them in won't let Stan leave her side and starts ordering him around, which prompts Klaus to try and get them to leave, but Stan still wants to stay at the party. Then Bullock comes out and introduces the band, Kris Kringle and the Naughty Boys, revealing Santa Claus. So, since escaping the Jingleverse, Santa has pretty much been rather promiscuous on his wife, got shredded, a bunch of tattoos, because the last time we saw him, I don't believe he had any of those, and maybe the American Dad version did. I don't know. He's magic. But he definitely started a band and is apparently doing quite well. And we can glean two things from this at this point. One, good for him, though he does do this through steroids. I don't know, just take your pick on steroids. I don't personally like them, and they're definitely bad for you, but he used them to get into shape. And two, it's Christmas, and he is not delivering presents, meaning he isn't actually doing his Santa duties. So, what's going on? Dan and Klaus are very concerned about this, since presumably Santa would still want to kill them for trapping them in the Jingleverse. Dan tries to leave, but is stopped by the girl who got him in, and when he tries telling her that they have a history with Santa, she reveals that she actually knows that, and reveals herself to be none other than Mrs. Clarissa Claus, who wants to make Santa jealous. About this time, Santa sees Stan and gets mad because Bullock promised he wouldn't invite him. Mrs. Claus then reveals he's here with her, and the two of them start arguing because Santa is spending too much time focused on band things. Santa then asks why she can't just be happy for him, since he finally found something that gives him creative fulfillment. Kind of weird to hear from Santa Claus, but I kind of get it. To her responding, it's because it's turned him into jolly old Saint Dick before storming off, and Stan tries to leave behind her, but Santa stops him, and once again tries to kill him, this time with his band, and is saved by Mrs. Claus, saying she's keeping the North Pole and good luck fitting 1,500 elves into a studio apartment. Santa would then go to the Smith's house, where they're complaining about Stan, basically barging in, telling them Stan is with Mrs. Claus, then just says he's staying and goes to sleep on the couch. All the while, Mrs. Claus is forcing Stan to party, doing a lot of drugs and not letting them leave. She might have actually picked the wrong person, because as we know from history, Stan is not the drugs or the party type. Granted, we've seen him do drugs, and that might be another video, and we've seen him party, but it never really ends well for Stan. Later on, when Steve asks Santa who is delivering the presents, we find out that Santa passed on that responsibility to his right-hand elf, Gunfrey, and he has been taking better care of himself, but he's still Santa, so he's being a slob and very inconsiderate. And that's kind of the answer. Why is he not doing Santa things? Well, because the elves are still doing it. They just need him for his Christmas magic. But meanwhile, Mrs. Claus is still partying, and Stan and Klaus trying to escape. But when Santa sees Francine putting up the Christmas decorations, saying Stan ruined Christmas, Santa steps in, saying Stan might be a grade A jackass, but it's still Christmas, and using his Christmas magic and causes it to snow outside. Stan and Klaus are trying to make the reindeer fly at this point, when Mrs. Claus finds them, 6 of the dogs and herself on them, quickly catching up to them, and stowing away in the sleigh, because I feel like canonically somewhere we've seen that the more drugs you do in American Dad, the faster you can run. I want to say there was a very creepy guy that showed us that in some episode. If I can remember, I'll try and find it, and I'll just clip the picture. At this point, though, Santa is actually bonding with the rest of the Smiths, and asks why women, specifically Mrs. Claus, hate music, saying since he formed his band, she has been whining that he doesn't spend time with her anymore. When Francine asks him about his routine, which involves checking the naughty list twice, the things with his band, basically it's right, Mrs. Claus is pretty much right, and Francine says he needs to put in more effort. Haley says she's lonely, not crazy. Side note here, she's definitely crazy, because the next time we see Mrs. Claus, that statement is immediately proven wrong, because in an alcohol drug-fueled rage, she is currently attacking Stan and Klaus in the air and crashes the sleigh, saying she would rather be dead than spend another Christmas alone. Ironically, though, they end up crashing into the Smith's house, where Francine and Haley are talking to Santa about possibly letting Mrs. Claus run his social media, which would make her more involved in his life. Turns out, though, pretty active on Facebook already, loves inspirational quotes but hates vaccines, and loves memes about hating vaccines. Maybe they're more like, right for them than they think they are. I don't know. They seem like a match made in heaven. Well, maybe the other place. Anyway, at this point though, a very broken Stan is crawling to the front door to confront Santa, but the family says that they started a new chapter with Santa, and he says everything is water under the bridge. This is basically the part of the episode where Stan apologizes for everything he's done, having learned his lesson. Santa would then go to get Mrs. Claus out from under the wrecked sleigh, telling her that he was so busy looking for love from everyone else, he forgot that all the love he needed was right here with Mrs. Claus. He even canceled the band's tour, wanting to spend more time with Mrs. Claus. After they kiss, saying she's sorry she slept with Stan, getting pretty hot at the idea of a jealous Santa, who, even though Stan says he never touched her, which is true, starts beating up Stan, while Stan says out loud that they thought they had started a new chapter. Santa says that chapter is over. In this episode, you die. And that's pretty much where the story ends. To recap here, though, it looks like the elves let Santa out of the Jingleverse. Like I said, seeing as he has the magic, that does make a lot of sense. And though he is still checking the list and performing some activities, it's actually the elves that have taken over the majority of Christmas, like delivering the presents, and basically that freed him up enough to pursue being a rock star and still making the need for a robot Santa in the future, because Santa is currently no longer actually doing Santa Claus things. But it looks like Santa probably played more of a role in the friendly robot company than I had originally thought, and if I can even connect those dots, which I might be able to, so stay tuned for that video. Which actually leads us into the last Santa sighting as of this recording in this year, and we see Robot Santa in Futurama episode 50 Shades of Green after going on his usual Christmas rampage. That's all we get for Santa's story for the time being, and I'm so glad I get to do this type of update video now, and I hope we're able to do this into the future. I hope they give us more Krampus. I hope they get more Giant Chicken from Family Guy. So that way I can just keep growing these characters' timelines on this channel. I'm having a lot of fun with that. But hey, if you guys have a character you would like to see me do in the future, please remember to leave that in the comment section down below. And while you guys are down there, please remember to hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you never miss another video from me, and I will see you guys in the next video.